Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Write or Die Show. I am your host, Randi-lee. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking with Sam. And before we get started, if you have not already hit that like and subscribe button, do it now. Welcome to the Write or Die Show. Excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks.
So tell us about who Sam is.
Okay. My name is Marchionda. I use she, her pronouns. I am an artist first and foremost. I'm a songwriter, a singer, a theater performer, and currently I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm currently building a business with the concept of helping people navigate the mental health system. So there's lots of different ways that looks right now. There's lots of different things going on, but I have a couple of products I want to roll out. And yeah, I'm from Welland, Ontario.
So Sam is the very closest person to me I've ever interviewed right now. Because she's in my city.
Amazing. I live in St. Catharines now, but I am from Welland.
Okay, so she's from where I was, and I am now where she is from. Perfect. We're like 20 minutes apart, guys. It's fine.
Exactly.
But that's like what you do. But who are you?
Okay. I am a person with lived experience with mental illness, depression, anxiety. My initial diagnosis also included OCD. My current diagnosis, that was a few years ago, is borderline personality disorder. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I just hit my first year of sobriety on December 29th. Thank you. Like, who am I? I don't know. I'm an artist. I don't know. I like to create. I love people. I love to talk to people and help people. And
yeah, that's a little bit more about you. Okay, so borderline personality disorder. I love talking about this one because not a lot of people on the show have talked about it, first off, and because it's such a misunderstood one.
Yes, I agree with that.
Let's talk about that. First off, in your understanding of it, remember, guys, we are not doctors on this show, but in your understanding of what that is, tell us what borderline personality is.
Okay. It is, I can tell you what it's not. It is not split personality or multiple personality disorder. That's a different beast altogether. Basically, it is a complicated one. So there's lots of different parts to it. There's 9 different criteria of borderline personality disorder. And if you have, I think it's 5 out of the 9, then you will, I shouldn't say you will likely get the diagnosis, but if you have more than you don't, then you have borderline personality traits and you may have the full disorder. So borderline personality disorder, from how I understand it, again, yes, definitely not a doctor over here, is formed in early infancy when those attachment bonds start to form between the caregiver and the infant. So what happens is, I feel like I'm going to botch this description, but I'm going to try my best. And what happens?
This is your understanding. I was just going to give you confidence. This is your understanding of it. So there's no botching it because this is your understanding.
Thank you. So it's formed in early infancy. So what happens is that the infant and and the caregiver. So there's like this fragile stage in infancy where if the infant doesn't know or understand that caregiver is going to be there for them when they need comfort or if they need anything, really, I can't generalize, but there's this like fragile little stage in infancy where that attachment gets formed, where the infant knows that if they have a need and if they like cry out or whatever it is, it's not necessarily about the crying part, it's about the needs being met part, where if that need isn't met, then the infant, the attachment doesn't get formed. And so the infant kind of lives in this state of, I don't know if that person's going to come. I don't know when they're coming back. There's this lack of object permanence. So they think that when, even though they're that small, that when that person leaves the room, like they may never come back. And that is a real reality for that person. So that doesn't get formed either. Like it's a bit messy. And it's not to say that like my parents were horrible people who didn't pay attention to me. That is not true at all. It's just that I guess it didn't form. I don't know. So
something happened. We don't know exactly, but it is a big part of attachment.
Yes, it is. Yes. And then so as an adult, it's very hard to diagnose borderline personality disorder because there are so many different functions. I actually looked at a chart once of how it shows how it can look like it's something else, how it can look like depression, how it can look like addiction, how it can look like anxiety, major anxiety. That's definitely, and I think that's why my initial diagnosis was different than this one.
Yeah.
But this makes like a lot of sense to me. Like this, when I read about it, I was like, oh my goodness.
It's all coming together. When did you actually get the diagnosis for borderline?
Last year.
Okay.
So my initial diagnosis was in 2016, December 2016. Yeah, I should say this too. I spent most of my life with an undiagnosed mental illness. So I'm 33 now. My initial was I was 26. I just turned 26 years old. So most of my life, I had no idea what was wrong or
struggling in silence.
Why I felt so afraid of so many things that didn't make any sense. Why I was so anxious. And yeah, we didn't talk about mental health. Like, mental health wasn't like a household term that like we all use now. Thankfully, we all use it. Like, thankfully, that's where we're going, is that there's a lot more awareness and programs and things about it. But definitely at the time, I knew that how I reacted and responded to things was different than the people in my household. So I have 3 sisters, and I didn't know why I was different, and I didn't know like why I couldn't just fit in and appear normal like everyone else. Like that's what I tried to do. I just tried to like shove it all down and just appear normal, and I just couldn't figure out what was wrong. So I mean, so many years later, I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like I can go to the doctor and talk about this to someone and go get medication, maybe, if that's what makes sense, which I did. I was on meds for a couple of years, but it wasn't, in my experience, it wasn't super successful.
Well, and I mean, you were on meds for something that wasn't the full answer yet, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the treatment for borderline personality disorder, thankfully, is therapy, is a special kind of therapy called dialectical behavioral therapy, which I have also done and been through. So, and it works wonders.
Bit of that. I did a little bit of DBT as well, and I gotta say, I really like that one. I've done CBT as well, but DBT, yeah. And that's just it. There's so many different kinds of therapies out there. That's why you gotta like find the one that works for you. Find the therapist that works for you.
Totally. Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for like, if it doesn't feel right, or if it's like, yeah, it takes time. And I've been in a lot of therapy for a lot of years at this point. And there have been some that were like okay matches, some that were like not a match, and some that are wonderful. Yes. So that is definitely so important. It's hard though. It's hard to navigate. And that's why I hope that part of my business will thrive because it helps people with things like that. Yeah. I did find the list of symptoms. Like, all right,
let's share them.
So if you want to hear them,
yes, do it.
Okay, so an intense fear of abandonment, even going to extreme measures to avoid real or imagined separation or rejection, a pattern of unstable, intense relationships, Rapid changes in self-identity and self-image that include shifting goals and values and seeing yourself as bad or as if you don't exist at all. Periods of stress-related paranoia and loss of contact with reality, lasting from a few minutes to a few hours. Impulsive and risky behavior, such as gambling, reckless driving, unsafe sex, spending sprees, binge eating, or drug abuse, or sabotaging success by suddenly quitting a good job or ending a positive relationship. Suicidal threats or behavior or self-injury, wide mood swings, ongoing feelings of emptiness, and inappropriate intense anger. So it's extreme. It's intense.
It's very intense, and I can really hear the overlap of bipolar, of depression, of anxiety, right? Like it's a lot of overlap. So it's totally understandable why it would be a very difficult one to diagnose.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely. That was from Mayo Clinic, if anyone needs to reference that. I just Googled it really quick, but I have a handful of books and it's the same list. So
yeah. All right. So, I mean, you talked about when you were younger, you didn't feel like you were normal in your family. Like you weren't the same as your sisters, as your parents. Like, what is something that really stood out to you that, like an example you can give us?
Yeah, for sure. So, if I watched like a movie that was scary, I would never watch that by choice, but if it happened to be on and I happened to like watch it, it was one of those things where like I could not look away, but I was at the same time like I'm still like this, so terrified, like inside of my body, and like I wouldn't be able to sleep for months, plural. Like everyone would just like get up and go on with their day, and I would be like crippled with fear. And like I remember like one particular night, I don't know, it was a Halloween movie, and like I will forever be afraid of masks because of that movie. Oh, it's real. And like being like, it was shortly after I had seen one of them. It just happened to be on, like I said, I wasn't like watching it by choice. And I wasn't like at an age that was way too young to be watching it. Like we were all, I don't know how old I was. Like I wasn't like 6 or something, you know. I was definitely like, I'm not sure how old, probably in my like early like 12, 13. I don't know.
Okay, like old enough, but
I remember, yeah.
I love scary movies. They're my favorite thing.
So I hate the dark movies. Yeah, I can't.
Yep,
I can't.
love them.
Like being in my bed in the middle of the night having to pee, but like having 1,000 blankets on top of me because I was so scared that like this person was real, that like that was going to happen to me. Like, and I was like sure, and just like it was not rational, obviously, but when you believe it, you think it is, right? You can't, and if you don't have the skills to like see through that emotion and see through to the rational side of things and talk yourself down and like self-soothe, if you don't have those skills, which I definitely didn't at the time, like I was so scared. I remember that I could not get out of bed, like I couldn't move a muscle, and I was just wide awake, but I was sweating so much because I had piled on so many blankets to like feel safe.
Oh my goodness.
And I couldn't move. Like everyone else was fine. Like I had a hard time like using public restrooms. I was afraid of all the like little cracks in the doors and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I was afraid of dogs, like really afraid. Like I would be like at my aunt and uncle's house who had dogs, and I would like, this is whatever. I would like hold my pee. If it meant I had to walk past the dogs, I would sit there and hold it until I absolutely could not hold it anymore because I was so afraid of walking by the dogs. Like other people could walk by them and it was fine, you know, like it was like, it didn't. And
like they weren't an aggressive dog, just in your head, you were so terrified.
Yeah, they weren't aggressive at all. They were really calm actually and like really chill, but yeah, like just stuff like that where like everyone else seemed to carry on and I was just like, I don't know how I can't, but I was so afraid of like getting made fun of, and like that I never said like once to anyone like I am afraid. I feel afraid. Like I never,
you were
because that would have been so vulnerable of me and so hard to say.
Yeah.
That was just the way of life. Like I didn't even know how to like even separate the emotion from myself. That was just the way I lived.
I mean, I can totally relate to how you grew up in a way because we're from the exact same area. We're roughly the same age, right? So like I totally get from a societal standpoint, we weren't talking about this stuff. Like
No.
you did not tell people if you were afraid of something. You didn't tell people if you were thinking of hurting yourself. Like that wasn't stuff that we talked about. And I know that on a grander scheme in other places that holds true as well. But really, it's kind of interesting because we're from the same area and the same generation. That no, we didn't. That was the stuff you did not talk about, like at all.
Yeah.
You would have been totally teased and picked on, like that's that stuff.
Totally. Yeah. And the other thing that like I think a lot of us didn't get the memo on is emotion regulation, like coping skills.
We were not taught that.
Yes. No, and like bless our parents, they did their best, they tried their hardest. They at least like mine did, it's not to say that they were like these really terrible people who were very neglecting. It's that they didn't know either, and their parents didn't know either, and their parents didn't know either. And and so like thankfully there are these like different therapy programs where you can, or the internet, just the internet in general.
Oh, I know, because we don't really have that too much.
No,
like it was in its infancy when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
And like at school, it wasn't talked about either.
No.
So how do you learn these things? At school, it was walk it off, right? Like you didn't get to have these feelings. It was not. It just wasn't. Whereas in school now, they've got counselors right at school nowadays. I mean, they might only be there 1 or 2 days a week, but they're there. They are available. There's literature there, brochures, whatever. It's much more talked about now. It's not to where it needs to be, but it's a lot better than back then, 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, or even better than like what it was like in the 70s.
Oh yeah,
teenagers, right?
Exactly.
Like, we've come a long way, which is so great for the next generation. Like,
exactly.
And the generation after that, because then hopefully, not to say that anyone before us did a bad job, but like hopefully, we are raising children with more awareness of their emotions and more ways to like deflect their own pain and hopefully and just be able to label and really and really cope with it themselves, because that's another thing too, is that I mean everything I saw in the media, all these things, right, were telling me I needed to find somebody else to save myself, like to be whole and I mean, this is kind of branching off into a different subject, but I also thought that if I found a man that I would be able to be like, I don't know, I thought that person was supposed to like fill all the holes and problems I had with myself. And like, that is the furthest thing from the truth.
But it's so true that that's the message that we received. Even, I can remember even like in high school and stuff, if you weren't dating somebody, what was wrong with you? Like that's.
And this, like, if you were single, you were just like, you just felt like, at least I did, my experience is that I felt so inadequate and so like unlovable and unwanted and unattractive because I wasn't with someone else. Like this like jealousy, right? This longing for this man figure to be in my life. If I was single at the time, like always striving for that, always like pushing for that. And like that is the furthest, that is the biggest, can I swear?
Crock of shit? Yeah, you can.
The biggest load of shit I've ever heard in my life. Like you ultimately like cannot, especially for this kind of work, like you cannot rely on somebody else to help you with your own relationship with yourself or getting the help that you need or getting the support that you need, learning those skills that you might need or you might not have. You have to do that. You have to take in the information. You have to take the course if that's what you want to do. You don't have to.
But it's about you. It's not about this other person saving you, right? It's about you.
No, that's crap. That is like the biggest load of crap ever. I really want to debunk that. Like,
Yeah, you
because
can't be saved by somebody else. You have to do it yourself. Now, I mean, it's great when you've got somebody who's supporting you. Like
oh,
I
of
didn't
course.
start going to therapy until I was married. Granted, I mean, me and my husband have been together since I was 19. So
Wow.
we would have, I didn't go to therapy as a child. So that
Yeah,
wasn't offered when we were younger, really. Unless you
Mm.
were like extremely bad. But if you hit it at all, you're fine. You're totally fine. Oh, you're passing in school, you're fine.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, exactly. So,
Ugh.
you know, it's great if you have that person, but you also have to understand that sometimes in certain relationships, um, that person is with you, and this is going to sound absolutely horrible, but that person is with you because you're broken. They, there are, in those people are abusers, right? Those people tend to be narcissists. They tend to be looking for somebody who they can tell what to do all the time. And if you are in a relationship with that and you finally want to get help, just know that that person does not control you and they don't control if you want to find help. If that
Mm.
makes sense.
Mhm.
What I'm trying to convey. I hope that came across the way that I'm trying to, in my head it makes sense, so I hope that I conveyed
Yeah.
that.
I understand what you're saying. I feel like sometimes there are people with great intentions who are wonderful people who just want to love us even though we are broken.
Yeah.
Um, like not everyone is in it to gain something or to abuse. Like I think there's definitely something to be said about that. Like I think that is definitely like
Yeah.
there are those people out there who like prey on kind of broken
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
to
So
benefit
what
themselves
I was meaning, like if you're telling your partner or whatever, I want to start therapy, I think that I need help with whatever. If that person is telling you not to, that
Yeah.
those are the situations that I'm talking about, that maybe you need to separate yourself from that person. If that person is trying to
Yeah.
actively prevent you from seeking the help that you want. Today's episode is sponsored by J&L Flooring and Decor Center in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. We just got the floors in our house completely redone by J&L Flooring, and they look amazing. The floors that we used to have were this like, they were just really ugly, and these ones are absolutely beautiful. They're exactly what I wanted in the price range that I needed. The best part is that they're super durable. I have 7 animals, right? 3 dogs and 4 cats. The floors need to be durable, and these ones are perfect. They're super easy to clean because one of those animals is still a puppy and he has accidents. Nothing's leaking through to my basement. It was happening with my old floors. You'd come downstairs and there'd be this little drip and a little puddle. Not a good thing. So, not to mention that the staff there are so friendly, very helpful. They can explain all of their different floors, the laminate, the tile, the hardwood, everything, carpets. They've got it all there, and the staff know what they're talking about. They also make these really beautiful epoxy tables there. My husband wants one so bad. They are gorgeous. If you need new flooring, then you need to go and talk to J&L Flooring. Tell them you saw this on the Write or Die show and see what they've got in stock. You want to check out jandlflooring.com or just go visit them at 4424 Montrose Road, Niagara Falls, Ontario. You're not going to be disappointed. That's
Yeah.
so maybe I missed that part when I was trying to explain, but if the
No, no,
person is
no.
actively trying to prevent you from it, then there's an issue. And it's not your
Yeah.
issue, it's their issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. Like if that person isn't super supportive of you wanting to improve yourself or be better or learn a skill or whatever it is, or go to therapy, like any of
Yeah.
those things, then I would kind of question their intent. Like not everyone believes in therapy. Not everyone thinks that sitting down with a perfect stranger is like the way to get better. Like some people
Yeah.
are like, no, we just like we just tough it out and we just learn as we go, and we don't need to go and talk to someone about all our problems. Like, so I mean, you can't force that on someone either. You know, like it's tricky.
It's tricky. There's no
Really
cut and dry answer. I just want people to know that because we're on the topic of relationships, that person, don't let somebody prevent you from seeking the help that you feel you need.
Yes. Yeah, no, you have to be your number one, like, fierce advocate.
Yes, exactly.
No matter what anybody else says, no matter what kind of like family or school of thought you came from.
Exactly.
Like, you have to be.
It's not always a partner. It can be a parent even that's like, what are you talking about? Because from a parent perspective, that could be that they're feeling like they failed, right? I need to go to therapy. Oh no, I failed as a parent. And that's not even true at all either, right? Like you were talking about how your parents were lovely people, but shit happens. We're not, sometimes we just need a little
Yeah,
help.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about therapy. Now that we've sort of talked about don't let other people stop you from going. When did you decide to go to therapy?
I want to say 2014. So I don't know that this is important, but I went to Brock for no good reason, like other than it was just like, go to university. I was like, okay, I'll go to university.
Yeah.
And then I took French and criminology, and a whole bunch of psychology courses. And then I finished. And then I went to college for musical theater. And then I lived in Ottawa for a couple of years and worked in hotels. And then I moved home in 2014. And in 2014, my grandfather passed away. So that was a kind of a big catalyst for change in my life at that point. I wasn't super fulfilled in Ottawa. I was very far away from everyone I knew. And so I moved back home. And I was really broken, not just because he passed away, but I was like so far from home and so far from everyone I knew that like I was so lonely. I was super depressed. Like now that I know that that has a name, like now I can look back and see what it was for what it was. Yeah. And I was an extremely anxious person in a relationship with someone who was like very distant and avoidant. And so that triggered a lot. I had been in the hospital a couple of times with panic attacks. I didn't know they were panic attacks. Never thought I had ever experienced one. But now that it's been a bunch of years, now I can be like, that was a panic attack. So like a whole bunch of things had been going on there. Like I was not whole. I felt so broken and so lonely and just, yeah. And my cat passed away. Like it was, oh no. Like we had bed bugs. Like it was just a really bad series of events. And I came home because I literally got a call at the front desk saying, your grandfather's palliative, you need to get home. So I came home, and then a couple days later, he passed away. So that was another like huge, like it was like the last thing that could have broken me at that point. And so I came home, I moved home, and that's basically around the time I started therapy because I knew that there were things that were off. I was just like, I don't feel right, I don't feel happy. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel connected. So in moving home, definitely like because I was closer to family again, the connection started to seep back into my life. Yeah. But I was like back and forth with this guy from Ottawa. You're gonna do distance, and then we weren't going to, and it was just like, but then he would avoid me for like a month. Like it was like just,
yeah.
And I like sympathize with him because I just feel like he was going through his own things as well. And so anyway, so so I started therapy then. And it was through an employee assistance program through my job at the time.
Okay.
Which was really, really great. And yeah, that was the beginning of my therapy journey. Since then, I stayed with that counselor for, I want to say around a year-ish. And then I ended up going back to her. I took a break for a while and then I went back. And then just because I was getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And then now, I mean, it's so different now. I've been through a couple of therapy programs, like full programs. I've also been in addiction counseling as well for alcohol. And then I went through a DBT program, and now like I'm still in like a group for alcohol, and it's not AA, it's called Smart Recovery. So the approach is a bit different. I've never actually been through AA. I don't even know AA. Like I don't know what it's like to be in AA. Yeah. And then I have a psychologist who I meet with regularly, who thankfully I can afford because like they have benefits. Like I wouldn't be able to otherwise.
Yeah. But so here's a misconception that we're going to unravel real quick right now for our American viewers. In Canada, mental health is not really covered. I mean, there are giant wait lists for Mental Health Canada where you can get a referral and there's this giant wait list. However, for like real, true, hardcore psychologists like you're talking about, it's not, we have to pay for it. That's what it comes down to. And so, people often think, oh, Canada, it's all free healthcare. To an extent, for sure. And I mean, I have very little negativity against our healthcare system. When I had cancer, I was right in there. They took care of it. I didn't get a bill. So if I have to pay for my psychologist appointments, I'm okay with it. I don't care. People are going to yell at me for that, but it is what it is. But it's just a misconception that a lot of people hold about the Canadian system. So I just wanted to explain a little bit about that. And so when you do have benefits through like work or something, you do have some help with that, which is awesome. There's so many questions, but we've already been talking for a while now, so I'm going to try and pick and choose carefully. Yeah, right. So when did you start drinking?
Oh, well, I feel like I started like a lot of people do when they're like 15, 16 at like house parties.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was just what you did. It was something you saw other people doing and you looked forward to it when you were of a certain age or close to a certain age in my case. Yeah. And it wasn't, well, I didn't see it as problematic at the time. So, yes. I mean, it was like weekends, sometimes like again, underage, like, and yeah, like at house parties with friends, like like at the I didn't think that was problematic. I didn't see that as problematic. It was just like the way it was. It's just the way it was. And then, you're 19 and 20 and you're in university and you're going to the bars and you're going out dance, whatever. And then like, I wouldn't say that it became problematic. Well, even no, it's different now. Now I see that all as problematic, but where like it became problematic was honestly only in the last like 4 years. But well, I can't count the last year because I haven't been drinking. So prior to that, probably for like 3 years.
Okay.
So do you want me to talk more about
Yes, please do.
Okay. So because I had already been kind of through the mental health system, I had been in therapy, I had an incredible fiance, incredible support. He's still, I said had, like he's still here. We're still engaged. So sorry. Yeah, like I had a job I loved. I had an amazing fiance. I had been through kind of the mental health system and was in therapy, had tried the meds, been on different kinds of meds, and I was still like a disaster. Like I was still living on this emotional roller coaster that never seemed to come to a full and complete stop. So as a result of that, and in trying to cope with that, I just started to drink more and more to numb out. I didn't know I was doing that at the time. Like it's easy now to look back and go, okay. But at the time, I was just trying to survive. Like I was just trying to live. And because alcohol is already a highly toxic, addictive substance, it plays off the reward system in your brain. And that just makes it all more complicated and easier to get hooked without you knowing. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And so then like a couple of years like that went by where I was, drinking to numb out, drinking to try and turn the volume down on some of these feelings I was having all the time. Like,
I like that analogy.
Anxiety. Thank you. And then I started to like think, I was like, okay, maybe I'm drinking too much. Like maybe this isn't good. And then I went to a counselor to talk about it, and then I wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready to listen to what she had to say. I wasn't ready to do the actions. I was like kind of fooling myself still, which I know now that like all of that was valid, and that's just where I was in my journey at the time, and that needed to happen to get me eventually somewhere else. And so, and then like a year and a bit went by after that, and I got some blood work done. And at this point, I was drinking like more nights in the week than I would like to admit.
Oh, okay.
Just to cope, probably 5 times a week, probably. But like we're talking like a bottle and a half of wine each.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I know.
And wine is very accessible in our region. We make a lot of wine here.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So, and I actually used to work at a couple wineries, and I actually am like super knowledgeable in the wine industry here.
There you go.
But that serves me well anymore. But that's okay. I don't care. And then yeah, I was like, I got some blood work. My liver enzymes were high. I had gained a bunch of weight. I knew, like, at that point, I was like, and even after I found out that little piece of information about my blood work, it still took me 6 months to like moderate after that.
Yeah.
So then I tried to moderate for about 4 or 5 months, and that still didn't work. And then I also, at that same time, I started to do individual counseling with an agency here for like substance use.
Okay.
And then in December last year, I just took myself on a walk to my favorite park, and I just was like, I think I thought that I would have like some epiphany where I would just stop altogether, and because I've had other epiphanies before about stuff, and then my action just changes right away, and then I go with it. So I
no
thought
epiphany for this one.
No epiphany. It was just like, this isn't going to be that easy. It was like, this is going to be probably the hardest thing you may have ever done. This is not like in it. You're gonna have to do it in baby steps. I just took myself around on a walk, and it's like a track. So like I shouldn't say a track like a track. It's a circle. So I just kept walking around. It's a big circle. It's like a 1K circle.
Where?
1 kilometer at Rotary Park in St. Catharines.
Okay.
It's like my favorite place.
I like walking around the canal.
Nice. Yeah.
With the water. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but because we're from the same location, I'm just like, I wonder where that is.
Oh, it's gorgeous. There's paths and trails and water as well. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So yeah, and I just said to myself, this is gonna be effing hard, but it has to go. We know that it has to go. We know that like we are, and by we I mean me and me.
Yeah. Your head, your heart, your body.
Yeah.
Your liver.
Yeah, exactly. That we are really, really sick of the shame spirals. We're sick of waking up in the middle of the night feeling this like crippling anxiety because we have gained a bunch of weight. Like we're sick of feeling ashamed of how much space we take up now. Like as if dealing with all the emotions and the roller coaster, and now like drinking and having a problem with drinking, like as if that wasn't enough. Now I was just like, now I have all these body image issues that I mean, I always had them, let's be real, but it was so much worse. Like it was just this pile of shit. And I was like, this one thing is making it all so much worse. And we know that. It's just gotta go. And I was like, okay, so how do we do this? And I was like, okay, so we just do it one day at a time. We're gonna write one down tomorrow, and then that's gonna be our commitment to not having a drink all day. We're gonna do that. And then the next day, we're gonna write number 2. We're gonna erase it and write number 2. And we're gonna erase it and write number 2. Okay. And that's what I did. And so today is day 386.
I like it.
Oh, 381. And nice. That was just and of course I had the support of my fiance. I had like a few friends I had told like about like how much of a problem it had become. I have my individual counselor as well.
And now you have the whole world.
I had support in place. There's all these like Facebook groups. There's a fantastic book that I would recommend to anybody who's questioning their like amount of, or if they should not use alcohol anymore, called Sober Curious by Ruby Warrington. Fantastic book. She has a podcast. She has a 100-day reset. So if you're like, I'm just going to stop drinking for 100 days or 90 or 30 or whatever, I would also recommend getting that book, because every day there's a prompt that you just like write about that gets you to examine your relationship with alcohol. So I did that as well. I think it's a fantastic tool for anyone who's questioning. whether they are like better off without it. I mean, I will sing it to the heavens that you are.
Yeah.
Just because my experience has been like completely and utterly game changing. Best year of my life.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Even with COVID.
Even with COVID, like so many breakthroughs, so many epiphanies. I spent so much time just in solitude this summer, like hiking and doing yoga, and it's amazing when you are like, okay, this is no longer going to be my vibration. This isn't the energy that I'm going to keep myself stuck in. I'm going to elevate to new and improved energy, like the people and things that just start to come into your life. It's incredible.
Yeah, that is awesome. Okay, so the last little thing I want to talk about is DBT. So it's not a therapy, I think, that gets enough recognition. A lot of people, they're all about cognitive behavioral therapy, which has its place. Don't get me wrong. Totally. It can be wonderful. It doesn't work for everybody. So when we're talking about different ways of therapy and different things, dialectical behavior therapy is another option for people. So just, from your experience, what happened for you? Like what kind of tools did you gain?
So DBT is dialectical behavioral therapy, and it has 3 different components. One is emotion regulation. Another one is distress tolerance, so tolerating stress and difficult feelings, difficult situations. The other component is interpersonal relationships and conflict resolution. Like there's some conflict resolution in there. And all throughout the program as well is mindfulness. So being in the present and breathing and slowing down and grounding yourself. So there's a lot of like fantastic things in DBT. There's a workbook you can buy if you just Google DBT workbook. It's like I feel like it's like the Dbt Therapy Bible. Like, and that's basically what like the therapy program that I did. It was based on that workbook. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's got so many life skills as far as I'm concerned, like emotion regulation. Like I already kind of touched on that, but just learning that was like, oh, I can do that. Like I can. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So when I was doing DBT, the biggest takeaway one that I had. So at the time, I had this upcoming meeting with the school. And I always would completely freak out over that. And I would normally have this huge, like, emotional, I don't know if it was a full-on panic attack, but this whole big emotional thing. And normally I would leave the school in tears, and it was awful. And so with the help of my therapist and DBT, she kept me in the moment. We practiced what would happen. She said, write down what it is that you're hoping to accomplish. And if the school decides to talk about something else, say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to talk about that. We're staying on this task today. And that helped me so much. I have not had a complete crying meltdown leaving a school meeting since, because I stick to what she taught me. So DBT was absolutely amazing experience. That was just, one example from what I did.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah.
So yes, we are going to start wrapping up now. And that is all about what Sam writes. So she's not the typical writer. She's not a book author, but we have had a screenwriter on here before. As long as you can write and you are some type of published writer, songwriting, as long as people have access to it, then you count. So what is it that you write, Sam?
That's a great question. I think everyone can write. And so I write a whole bunch of things. So I've written so many things. It's like that. I have written 3 one-woman shows, 3 different one-woman shows where I've talked about my experience with mental health. And I also sing songs because I'm a professional singer. So I've incorporated, in the first 2 shows I did, I incorporated cover songs to go with what I was talking about. And then in the third one, I actually wrote all of my own music and played it on piano, which is always really scary for me because I'm I'm just like a self-taught piano. I can send you the link for
Yeah.
that show because it was virtual.
Yeah. We can add that to the description.
Perfect. So I've also written a few blogs, and I'm going to be writing a lot more of them very soon on different things. And right now I'm building, I don't know if it's not really writing, but like the business I'm building is like, there's so many different components. I've designed a planner that I will hopefully it'll be ready to sell by the fall for like Christmas and into the new year.
Yeah.
I've also written what I call my emotional first aid deck, which I can't call it that because somebody else already called it that, but it's a like a tool, like a series of cards that'll be like a series of flashcards or like things like little pamphlets you can open.
Yeah.
And each one deals with a difficult emotion, and then it has actions that you can do to cope with that emotion.
Oh, that's so cool. I love it.
Thank you. And then the third part of it is like words of affirmation, like things that are self-compassionate and reassuring, like just things to remember almost when you're in that emotion, when you feel that emotion. So
that's great.
That's in the works as well as something I want to like print and also make digital, so like an app one day.
Yeah.
So
I know a guy who could help you with that.
Want to write Wicked.
Yeah, so connect with me after I know a person.
Amazing. And I do want to write many books.
Yes, and I'm the person to help you with that one.
Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram at Sam Out Loud and on Facebook at Sam Out Loud. But please note that on Facebook, the Sam has an extra M because someone else already has Sam Out Loud on Facebook. And I'm trying to have this really nice conversation with them where I'm like, hey, can you change your username, please? It would be really great to keep it consistent for the whole brand. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But Sam Out Loud on Instagram, Sam Out Loud with an extra M after Sam on Facebook. That's where you can find me for now. My website, I'm doing a rebrand. Like there's lots of things going on. Eventually my site will be on all of those things as well.
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you, Sam, so much for coming on the show, for sharing with us. I know I learned a lot. I hope the listeners learned a lot. And we're going to stick the links in the description down below when this gets posted for YouTube and podcasts.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so amazing.
So we're going to put the links to follow her down the description below. And you can also check out the one-woman show that she was telling us about that she did virtually. If you want to pick up some merch, please do so. It's a great way to support the show. And I think our designs are pretty fun. 10% of the proceeds goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. As well, remember that the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly.